I'm very proud to tell you guys this video is going to be brought to you by G Fuel, and right now they have a brand new Kaiju number 8 energy formula. You guys know, if you've been keeping up with my videos on my other channel, I love Kaiju number 8. I am extremely proud to say that I've tried this one out. This energy formula of the Kiwi Berry Blitz is absolutely insane, and you get that energy formula itself. There's just enough caffeine in the energy formula itself to get your day started. Another huge plus is the fact that there's zero crash when you use it, so you ain't got to worry about being Konohamaru and not being able to perform because you ain't got the energy. Also, you get all the vitamins and minerals and antioxidants that are going to get your day going, and best of all, there's zero sugar, which is a huge plus to me. You guys know that running multiple YouTube channels, it's not an easy thing to do. And so I do time to time need an energy drink to pick me up. And so I go with G Fuel because it's a lot healthier than some of the energy drinks that are out there. You strike your fancy, doing so really helps support the channel. About a line in the last manga chapter that grabbed my attention, and I wanted to check the pulse of the community on said line, which is in the last chapter when we see Jura and he's fighting Himawari. We have Jura reveal that, to paraphrase what he said, he was getting excited about having the chance to test out more of his true power against Himawari, and we promptly see him playing around with her further after that. Now, when most of us heard that line, we all took it at face value and said, hey, this is just a story telling us that his overall power level is just that much higher than what we as fans had expected at that point. But when I read the line, it made me think about something entirely different altogether, which is the prospect that Jura has another power in general he is yet to use, which is why in today's newest Naruto Explained video, I wanted to talk to you guys about why we need to have a very real conversation on what other power Jura is holding back and whether or not that power is linked to the Rinnegan itself. One of the first things that many of us notice about these awakened Shinju is the fact that each of them appeared to possess the Rinnegan, but given how quickly the story has continued to escalate, the Rinnegan, despite being one of the most iconic eyes in the franchise, has been pushed to the background in a lot of topics of conversation surrounding these villains, and it makes a lot of sense. Who is going to talk about the Rinnegan when you got Jura and he's beating the brakes off of Himawari, saying equal rights get you equal lefts? Hidari is tapping Sarada with his Chidori from behind. Matsuri is planning to swallow Konohamaru whole. Then you got the Bug Shinju, who is breaking through Ada's Semigon power, walking right up to where she was projecting herself in the room, looking her deep in the eyes, and he's telling her, no, I tell you what, I like you and I want you. Now we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. The choice is yours. This, of course, freaked out Ada in the process, and she ran to Kawaki seeking a knight in shining armor to protect her. Like, she really expected Kawaki to be capable of doing much of anything except going to sleep. So when you have all this going on, it can be very easy to just ignore the Rinnegan. However, I want to make the case for why I think the awakened Shinju, or at the very least Jura, using the Rinnegan needs to be a topic of conversation and should be something that the story does consider. So here's the thing, the eye in of itself is too valuable to not have the power be used. Now, I know the Sasuke fans, they're already chomping at the bits at this whole conversation, and they're probably still coping with him getting dragged by Jigen and getting bitched out by Ishiki when he wiped his dirty feet on Sasuke's face. They might be going, wait a second, what good is a Rinnegan gonna do? Sasuke didn't just have a Rinnegan, bruh, he also had a Rinnegan with the Tomo in his eyes, and it did nothing for him in the series. So what good would it do with these characters using the Rinnegan? So to that, I would say this, the circumstances, quite frankly, they're different. Yes, Sasuke, he had the Rinnegan. We all know he had the Rinnegan. He's the strongest guy to ever have possessed the Rinnegan. But when you take the feelings out of it, the story makes it pretty clear early on that Sasuke's Rinnegan wasn't going to be much of anything to use. So you're going, wait a second, I just said that. So why are you even arguing it? So here's the thing. The moment that Momoshiki very casually broke out the strongest of the basic 6 Rinnegan jutsu that every user gets access to when they get the Rinnegan, the Deva Pass Chibaku Tensei, that was your sign that Sasuke's Rinnegan wasn't going to be of much use. If someone with a comparable level of power to him could break out of the strongest jutsu that easily, then characters like Jigen and Ishiki, who were stronger than Momoshiki and faster than Momoshiki, they were going to be walking hard counters to the basic 6 Rinnegan Jutsu themselves, and we saw that play out. However, the reason why all this is different now is that it comes down to the fact, in my opinion, that the issue that Sasuke had does not apply to these other characters who the awakened Shinju are setting to fight. Outside of 3 characters, Daemon, Boruto, and Kawaki, with those 3, you have the potential to run into some other issues. But if by him at the right moment is something that could pose a problem for even those 3, especially the 2 cyborgs. At least knows how the basic 6 Rinnegan Jutsu work and how they are countered in general. A Sasuke fanboy such as Boruto, especially one that's a genius like him, he would have made it a point to learn everything about Sasuke's Rinnegan Eye, and so we can't really discount that. Boruto probably knows all the different counters, and if he doesn't, he's got Momoshiki's experience. Momoshiki had the Rinnegan, so Boruto just taps into that. Now, the other 2 shown flashes of not being the smartest person around. Maybe he's not as mentally challenged as a certain 7th Hokage who needs to borrow someone else's 2 hands in order to count to 30 because he only had 20 fingers and toes to use for counting purposes, but Daemon doesn't come across as too bright. Nevertheless, Ishiki never had the Rinnegan, so by extension, Jigen didn't have one either. So even with Daemon being someone who had his human body modified to battle Jigen and potentially Ishiki resurrecting Jigen's body, you still run into the issue of more likely than not, he wouldn't have known anything about the Rinnegan powers, and he'll be fighting against someone like Juro or Bug or whatever Shinju was attempting to capture Ada. He would be going into that fight extremely blind. That opens up a few options in my opinion, particularly given the weakness of Daemon's Shinjutsu is very, very simple, and the fact that unlike his sister Ada, Daemon doesn't have the ability to fly. His reflection Shinjutsu requires him to be placing his palms on someone in the area, so someone like Ada or the person he's fighting, in order to activate it. Assuming you isolate him away from his sister and you keep him from placing his palms directly on you, then you can work around his reflection Shinjutsu. That in turn allows for things like the Rinnegan's basic jutsu, like the Preta Path power, to steal chakra, which would release the Shinju are in possession of. Makes that irrelevant since would release can absorb and suppress chakra depending on the intention of the user. But things like the human pass ability to rip out souls, that's on the table when used in combination with things like the Deva Path Universal Pull Jutsu, though again, Universal Pull can be physically countered if you're strong enough. With Kawaki, someone who doesn't have any interest in learning things that are ninjutsu and shinobi related, you can bet he's never looked into what happened during the 4th Ninja War or during Pain's invasion. However, he does have Ishiki's Karma Seal, so when using Karma, he would have Ishiki's vast knowledge, so it is very likely that he knows how to counter set jutsu. In fact, I'd say it's extremely likely because Sasuke wasn't dumb enough to waste his chakra using those jutsu against Jigen or Ishiki. But that brings me to the next point though. Even amongst the other members of the cast that we see outside of Konohamaru and Ino and Shikamaru, nobody else directly involved in the story has ever had to be armed with the information on how to counter the Rinnegan Jutsu. In a battle setting, not knowing something vital about an enemy or their jutsu is just as important as you as a jutsu caster not performing it too much, because when you do, your enemy is able to figure out the weaknesses of said jutsu, Kekkei Genkai, etc., if they've seen it enough times. If we're going with the assumption that the Shinju, they're curious about their powers and their reason for existence, then exploring this aspect, it makes sense narratively. I don't know if it's by coincidence that we saw Juro reading through so many books on the Shinobi World. I tend to err on the side of that was not a coincidence, that was intentional. He knew about the Sharingan and that Hidari wouldn't be able to properly use the Chidori without the Sharingan insight. If he read something on the Sharingan, then there's a good chance he read something about the Rinnegan, since the last 3 antagonists of the Naruto story possessed the Rinnegan, and so too did one of the heroes of the 4th Ninja War, Sasuke himself. Even if the books were just limited to information on Konoha, the Rinnegan is a vital part of Konoha history, given Sasuke's connection to the 4th Ninja War itself. I personally think this is a worthwhile exploration, but at the same time, I don't think we'll see that Rinnegan power being used for a couple of reasons. The first being that based on what we've seen, when people awaken a dojutsu, for the most part, they know the functional mechanics of how their powers work. Itachi already knew how to his Mangekyo powers, and so did Sasuke. Nagato got the Rinnegan and used the eye as a cheat code for the 5 chakra nature, since like 6 pass power, which by 6 pass power, I don't mean Hagoromo's chakra seal. I don't mean 6 pass sage mode, 2 different powers. I'm only referring to 6 pass power as it is defined, the collective chakra of the 9 Biju being used simultaneously. The Rinnegan automatically allows you access to all chakra natures. Jura should already know how to perform the basic jutsu as it is, and I think if he did have access to that power, we would have already seen it used earlier. He could have just as easily snatched Himawari by using Almighty Pull and combined it with Wood Release Jutsu, and bam, he's consuming her chakra through a tree just like he wanted. Jura has shown that he is smart enough to do something like that, but being in character, he's also shown a tendency that we've seen with other characters like Jigen, Ishiki, and Code, especially Code, where he just plays around with people that he's fighting, and unlike the other 3, he's avoided the find out phase of the F around portion of the game he's playing. The other reason I don't see the Rinnegan powers coming into play is that it still feels like we're moving away from the aspects of the Naruto power system that were directly connected to Samsara, which is what the Rinnegan powers are each connected to. It would feel like it was moving backwards at this point if we were going back to rely upon the Rinnegan powers being used at some point for some of the villains, which makes me a bit sad, but the prospect of seeing Wood Release return to being somewhat effective, now that does get me excited, given that Hashirama is one of my favorite Naruto characters. Hopefully I am wrong here, and we do see Jura bust out the use of the Rinnegan Jutsu, because I think it has something more to still offer the story, just as Akaza had a lot to offer in the Demon Slayer story, which this video on the left breaks down every Upper Moon from the origins to the powers and so much more. And over here on the right, we got the new Boruto chapter review if you've not seen it already.